Here we are with our guessing game program again. We've been using this to demonstrate a number of concepts over the last couple weeks here, and we're going to take a look at creating random numbers right now. We've had this guessing game where the user is trying to guess a number between 1 and 10, and we've been giving them feedback on whether their answers are right or not. Hasn't been a very good game to this point. It's been good for demonstrating a few things, but all we've been doing with it is having the answer be 7 all the time, right? It wouldn't take very long before even a really young kid would realize the answer is always 7, and there's no point in playing this game. It's not a very captivating game in the first place, but in the combination of having no randomness to it, it's completely awful, right? And that's a key to games. If things are too random and they're too hard, nobody wants to play it very long. If they're not random enough and they're too easy, nobody's going to play that very long either. And for a long time, random number generation was a pretty complex thing, and you could get in a big argument with people over what was the best way to create a random number and how random it really was. Fortunately for you, that has gotten a lot easier than it used to be. I do have some code in here that I have commented out. The standard way to do this for a long time in Visual Basic was to use 3 different functions to get the job done. A random number generating function, a randomized function, and an integer function. I did include information about this in this week's lesson just because you're probably going to encounter it. You'll definitely see it in some of the programs that I demo, because for a long time, that's how I learned to generate random numbers, so it's in some of the programs I've created. You'll maybe see it online in some demos and some programs, so I did put information in there in the lesson about it so you could learn about it, but you don't have to learn to do it that way. I just put that in there for your information. So how you would go about it now is basically create a new random class. Okay, and you might say, well, what's a class? And we'll get into it more in the second semester of this class. Of this course, we start talking about classes and more information about it. But you can think of it simply this way. When you go to your form and you're going to bring in, say, a button, okay, and put that on your form. You don't have to write any code for it. You just bring it in. There is a whole class, a button class, for Visual Basic. Somebody wrote the code for buttons, and you just get to utilize it. Makes it really nice. That's a real powerful thing about object-oriented programming, is that a lot of the coding for a lot of the things is done for you, and so you can just utilize it. It'd be really tedious if we had to write the code for every one of these little things we want to use. Well, it's the same thing with random numbers. There's a class that's been created. So all you need to do is create a new random class. The things that make up a class are called objects. So like when we bring the button class, there's different button objects we bring in and change. So same thing here. When you dimension this class for a new random class here, you're going to call it obj random for the 3-letter prefix of object, okay? And then you create your random number just like you normally would, or your variable that's going to be an integer to hold this random number, and you tell it that it equals object random dot next, and then in parentheses the range that you want it to create the random number in. So for the example of this game, we said they were supposed to guess a number from 1 to 10. So the one thing about this whole next function here that you got to understand is you put the bottom number of your range in there, and then the high number of the range plus 1. So if I want a number that's random from 1 to 10, I would put 1 and 11 in there. So these 2 lines of code right here create the random class that it knows what to do. It knows how to generate random numbers. I take that random number and I put it into my variable, and now every time I play this game, it's going to be a different random number. It won't just be 7 again. So when I try to guess 7, and then sure, my luck, it comes up 7. But if I try this again, We'll just go with 7 again just to prove. See, didn't come up 7 every time. It did the first time. But now it's creating a random number every time. Now there is one problem with this program yet. A regular dim statement is actually going to let this create a random number every time that I guess. So that wouldn't be a good thing because, you know, I just got one that said it was too low, and if I tried to guess lower, it would recreate another one. It'd be really just luck for me to guess it right because it's changing every time. But you'll learn how to make this happen. You'll change the lifetime of this variable to extend to the length of the program in the video on static variables. Okay, so this is the new way to create random numbers. It's pretty easy, really. Just create the random class, create a variable to hold the random number, and pull the next random number and put it into the variable.